Hi, Todd Barrett with BYU here. Today we're going to talk about prompt engineering and what makes a useful prompt in ChatGPT. Whether you're just starting out or you've been using ChatGPT since the beginning, I hope there are some useful things here that can help you up-level your prompting, asking better questions so you get better answers out of ChatGPT. Let's dive right in. So here are our goals for today. First, we want to understand the differences between models. Why do they have different models? How do I know which one to use? When should I use each different one? We're going to talk about basics. What are the things you need to include in your prompt so that you're giving it the best information so it can give you the best answers? And then we're going to go through a couple of prompting exercises where you can try different things and maybe see new ways of using ChatGPT that you haven't thought about. And then lastly, we're going to dive into some advanced features. How do we chain prompts? How do we co-edit on the canvas? Lots of really cool things, reading images, and share some helpful tips. So let's dive right into it. All right, start off. I want you to think about what is the last thing you Googled today? Take a minute, throw it down in the chat. Post a comment, whatever. What is the last thing you Googled? So if you're new to ChatGPT, I want you to think about generative AI systems like this. What if we take the wealth of Google, which is great at understanding everything out there on the internet and pointing you to web pages, and what if we pair it with a team of experts that try to give you a personalized answer to your response? And you'll see this. Google does this. They've incorporated Gemini, and it gives you answers in the Google search, or Bing does Copilot, where sometimes you'll search for something, and instead of just giving web pages, it'll actually give you a customized response there. This is what we can do with ChatGPT. So this is like having something that can search the web and look at all the web pages out there, and then a team of experts behind it that respond specifically to your individual questions. It's really powerful. I like to use this model. Think of ChatGPT like a student employee. We're at the university here. We have amazing students. Think of a student who's too smart for their own good, way eager to impress you, trying to do way too many things at once and unaware of their own limitations. If this is how you think of ChatGPT, then you're off to a good start right there. It will do all of these things. I'd like to just take a minute and share a word of caution about ChatGPT. ChatGPT, we often make it seem human, and I'm very guilty of this. I'm putting personas on this. We think it can feel, we think it can relate, we think it's thinking like us and it understands. It isn't capable of feeling. It isn't capable of understanding. It can't make ethical judgments or value judgments. It's very good at acting like a human, but it's absolutely not human. ChatGPT is a statistical analysis. It's a mathematical equation that's really good at predicting good answers, but it isn't capable of feeling. So be really careful as we interact with it. It's good at doing things where it can speed up our research. It's good at helping us write code, things like that, but it's not good at making value judgments. I think of it a lot like if you go to Las Vegas to the Strip, you have the front side, which is, it's the show, it's the glitz, it's the glamour. But if you were to walk around behind all of that, it's just not what we always think it is. It loses its magic. ChatGPT is very much the same. If you could see what's going on behind it, it's just a bunch of math equations and statistical analysis. So keep that in mind as we go through this, especially as I'm making it seem really human. It's not human, it's a computer. Let's just keep that in mind. What makes each of these models unique? We talked about this team of experts. Each one of the models is like an expert in its own right. So with a GPT-5, there's really four main models. It's actually really three, but there's a few main models. The default model, and we'll get into what this means and how you switch between them, but the default model is the flagship model. It's the default for most conversations. It tries to balance quick responses with well thought out and reasoned responses. Oftentimes, you'll use the thinking model in ChatGPT. This reasons, so it'll think really quickly, and then it might run through a couple iterations and say, does that make sense? Did I answer the user's question? It takes a little longer to respond because it's like going through a couple of iterations, trying to make sure it's dialed it in. The mini model is really good at giving you quick answers. If you don't want to sit and you just need it to do a quick task, you don't want to wait for thinking to reason through this whole thing. You just want a quick answer. The mini model is great for that, and we'll use that for a lot of examples here because of its speed. And then Pro, or it was called Research in previous iterations. This is deep exploration. It basically writes you a research paper on whatever topic you give it. They're long, verbose answers. They can take a long time. I will do an example here that takes it 15 minutes to think through. So it's slow responses, but often it's grounded in hard citations. So you know that it's not going to hallucinate as much, and it tends to give you really good, well thought out answers. Let's dive into how we use these. So to learn which model is the best one to use, the best thing you can do is to experiment and to try them all out. Give them a shot. Ask the same prompt to different models and see how it responds. And we'll do some comparisons here. Now, I said that the default model often points you to other models. In GPT-5, or OpenAI introduced routing with their default model. So what this does is when you ask it a question, the first thing is it looks at your question and says, do they want a quick answer or do they want me to think and reason? And it'll often balance that on its own. You can explicitly choose, I want you to use the thinking model or I want you to use the mini model based on what you're hoping to get out of it, but it's okay to just stick with the default. Just be aware that there are other options. Default will usually route to one of those two models right there to give you the answer. But if you don't want to have to pick, stick with default. Okay, before we dive into this, understand that you can do some customization in the settings and the personalization. So in the bottom left corner of your ChatGPT screen, where it has your name, if you click on your name down there, you'll see a little pop-up, and one of the options there is personalization. This is where you can give ChatGPT some knowledge about you. Do you have a specific name? You want it to always call you by your high school nickname, or what do you do with ChatGPT the most? Are you always crunching numbers, working on Excel? Are you a programmer? Are you in construction? If you give it your occupation, it's going to try and give you answers that slant towards that. So this helps kind of focus a lens of how ChatGPT responds. You can add interests, preferences. You could put in here that you always want it to respond like a pirate or respond to me in Pig Latin, things like that. You could make it very difficult to use, but it allows you to do some customizations here. If you scroll down from here, you can also see it will remember things from your conversations. It will find things that it says, this is relevant, he's working on this project, or she does this a lot, and it'll start to form memories. Those help shape its future responses. So if you're always asking it for recipe help, it's going to start to figure out that you like to cook, and it's going to start to respond more with cooking answers. You can go ahead and you can include some of that info in here so that it starts off on that foot. So this can help kind of focus or shape that lens that it responds with. Another nice thing about ChatGPT is that you can organize your conversations into projects. With these projects, you can tell it to keep a memory just of that project. So if you've got a bunch of chats that are all interrelated and you want memory just to remember those, you can do that. And then you want to start a new project that it doesn't remember all those, you can do that so it's in a different context there. Or you can tell it, use my default, which is for the memory span across all your conversations, and you can do that in a chat too. You can organize them based on what type of project it is. Is it research? Is it planning? Is it code? Do you keep meeting agendas and transcripts? And so that can help you organize all of your chats into logical kind of layouts and keep them grouped together so that the memory gets shared or doesn't, depending on what you like. Okay, so with that background behind us, let's talk about some basics of prompt engineering. And a few years ago, prompt engineering was really a buzzword. I feel like in the last couple of years, it's shifted a little bit. There are people who talk about context engineering, where it's not so much the structure of the words I give ChatGPT, but it's how much of the surrounding context do I give it so that it can give me a better answer of what I'm looking for. And so we'll talk a little bit about how you structure your prompts. Prompts are the requests I make to ChatGPT. How do you structure those prompts so that it can give you the best answers back? There's some general guidelines. You don't have to follow these. They're not concrete rules, but hopefully it gives you some guidelines on how to make your prompts better. So let's try this at home. The first guideline goes without saying, be clear and specific. So instead of saying, please write me an email, what is my email about? What do you want me to do? Give it some guidelines. Write a brief but friendly email reminding employees to submit their time cards before Thursday at 5 p.m. due to the holiday weekend. I want you to think right now, which model would I have do this prompt? Which model is going to write me a brief but friendly email? For this one in particular, I would pick the mini model. I don't need thinking to reason through it. I've given it all the info it needs. I just want it to put some words down that are friendly and brief, get that out the door. So let's go ahead and try that with the mini model right now. If we open up our ChatGPT window, and we're going to copy and paste this from our handout that has all of these prompts here. We're just going to take it exactly how we have it in the handout, copy it, and paste it right here. Please write a brief but friendly email reminding employees to submit their time cards before Thursday at 5 p.m. due to the holiday weekend. Now we'll come up here and we're going to pick the mini model. I don't know why they put it as a legacy model, but it's right there. Pick that and then go ahead. The mini model is fast at getting back to us. So just a friend, here's our email right here. It's drafted it up for it. And then in the last couple iterations, they've made it so that ChatGPT is notorious for giving you suggestions on how you can go a little further or go a little deeper. You're welcome to ask it. Please do that. That brings me to my next point. When prompting, I have a natural tendency, I think we all want to do this, to use polite words. Please, thank you. We treat ChatGPT like it's a human. Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, the parent company of ChatGPT, he came out with a statement a few months ago and said, we have spent tens of millions of dollars processing those courtesy words like please and thank you. I did find it interesting. He said, we consider it well worth the cost just in case. But it's a reminder that you don't have to use those words. It doesn't hurt if you do. But you'll see in most of my prompts here, for efficiency's sake, I don't include them. If you watch my prompts personally, I always do because I never know if the AI uprising is going to happen or not. So first prompt, sorry, back on track. First prompt, to be clear and specific. Second prompt, or second guideline, use structured prompts. You'll see this a lot, these 4 areas. You give it a role. Either you tell it your role is Excel tutor, or you tell it what you're trying to do. I'm working on Excel. Tell it what the role is, and then give it a task. Here we say, help me create a formula to combine last names and first names. And then the context, so it knows, why do you want to combine these? In this context, I said, I'm new to Excel and I need to combine data in 2 columns. A new person may not know how to do that. So the format is, I want you to show me how to create a formula that tells it what to do and teach me how to use it with brief beginner level descriptions, no technical jargon. Okay, let's come back over here to our ChatGPT window and let's go ahead and copy and copy and paste our prompt right here. You're an Excel tutor. Help me create a formula to combine last and first names. I'm new to Excel and need to combine data into 2 columns. Show me how to create a formula and teach me how to use it with brief beginner level descriptions, no technical jargon. We're going to go ahead and switch this to our mini model again and go. Here we go. So it makes some assumptions. Column A is last name, column B is first name. We want to combine them, so it'll be last name, comma, first name. Notice that there's no comma typically in these, so it's going to teach us how to add that comma as we do it, and then it walks us through it. We're going to click on the cell we want the full name to appear in. We're going to do this, type in this exactly as it looks here, or you can just click copy code and paste it in there. And then all of a sudden we'll see those 2 columns will concatenate into one single cell right there. And then we can drag it and fill the whole column out. And it gives us an explanation that walks it through. This is a great tutor for us if we're new and want to ask questions, but don't want to go bother our coworker every time. I think that's really cool. All right, let's move on to our next guideline here. Request explanations. So in this one, we're going to do that same thing. We're going to combine it. Instead of saying role, context, formula, we're going to say, you're a Python tutor. Help me write a function that checks if a number is prime and returns true or false. So kind of a basic beginner Python programming function here. But I want you to explain what each line is doing so that I can understand. All right, let's switch back to our ChatGPT here. All right, and you'll notice with some of these, because of the form I'm copying them off of, they have funny line breaks. ChatGPT is pretty oblivious to spacing, so it's okay if the lines are chopped kind of funny. It doesn't matter. We're going to go ahead and switch this to our model and off to the races. Here we go. So it writes me a Python function. And then if you look at it, it's really careful to insert comments to explain what it's doing with in general with each line. So it writes the code for us. And then down here, it gives us a line-by-line explanation that walks us through, here's what I did, and explains why it did what it did, so that as I'm reading this, I can understand, oh yeah, prime numbers wouldn't be less than 1. And oh, we just go up to we figure all the factors up to the square root. Oh, that makes sense, because if we go higher than the square root, we would have already gotten the factor as we work our way up. So walks us through there, and then it gives us examples of how to use it. And then typical of ChatGPT, it offers, how can we take this to the next level? How can we keep the conversation going? And so I think that's really cool how that works. So there's another example of how to request an explanation when we're doing ChatGPT prompts. Okay, our next guideline is to provide examples. We're going to do what's called shop prompting here. So with shop prompting, you give it examples, and this is how many of these models get trained. I give it the user's prompt, I give it an answer. I give it a user prompt, I give it an answer. I give it a user prompt, and I give it an answer. So I've shown it, this is when I ask this question, I want you to respond like this. So if we look here, the shop prompting I'm doing, I give it 4 statements. I love my car. And then I tell it, that's a positive statement. Then the next one, I hated my last job. I tell it, that's a negative statement. I went to the airport. That's neutral, no feeling. 4th statement, I love spending time with my kids. That's a positive statement. And then this is where I ask it the question. The user says, I love BYU sports. And then I ask it, what is the answer? So this is a shop prompt right here. So let's switch back to our ChatGPT window and start a new conversation, new chat. Again, we're going to go with the mini model here, and let's copy our prompt over. So we're going to go copy this and paste it in. There we go. So this is what we give it: user, answer, user, answer, user, answer, user, answer, and here we go. And if you look, it just responded really quickly, positive. It picked up the fact that I said, I love BYU sports. It had seen earlier when I said, I love, it knows that's positive. Let's go ahead with the other example. Here, we're going to go a little bit more advanced. We're going to tell it, and we use a slightly different format. We say user and assistant instead of you and a. It knows how to read the difference. So the user says dog, cat, fish. The assistant responds animal dog, animal cat, animal fish. The user says apple, banana, orange. The assistant says fruit, apple, fruit, banana, fruit, orange. So it's grouping them based on what they are. And it's making the decision. The user never said these 3 are animals or these 3 are fruits. So now we're going to give it Santa Fe, Phoenix, and Boston. What do we think it's going to come back with? Let's see. Oh, and I picked up something on the next principle. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hit it with the next one, and let's see what it comes back with. City, Santa Fe, city, Phoenix, city, Boston. It's able to look at, what do these 3 things have in common? They're all cities. So there you go. Giving examples or shot prompting. You can do one shot, you can do no shots, you can do multiple shots. Those help set an example. You can give it writing styles and then tell it to write in that style. Those are examples of how you can use shot prompting to get the responses the way that you want to get them. Okay, let's jump back in here. So our last general guideline is you can use text controls to shape how it responds. And there are a lot of these you can do. Here's a chart of different things that I've come across. You can tell it how to structure the output. If you want output to come in JSON format, if you're writing code and you want to interpret that output, you can force it. I want you to give me output JSON, or I want you to generate Python code. I want you to give me a table. You can enable the canvas, which is what we'll talk about in a little bit. Or you can define the role just using a text prompt like this. You are an expert chef. You can tell it style, formal or casual. You can set the max tokens. Tokens are how it splits up words. So if you don't want a long response, set the max tokens to 100 or maybe 150, maybe 60, depending on how long you want it. And then it has to limit how much it replies. Or you can give it hints. If you're going to give it an image that you want it to interpret, you can tell it, I'm giving you an image. So we're going to do this example right here. And for this, we're going to do a shootout. We're going to take the default model and we're going to take the mini model, and we're going to give them both the exact same prompt. In the interest of time, I'm just going to show you what the output was instead of actually walking you through it for this one. First of all, mini was much faster. It ran for a minute and it generated a simple house with a tree. The default reverted to a thinking model because I told it to use the canvas. I've never seen it do this before, but in this particular instance, it actually generated code to generate a scalable vector graphic. So if you look at this image, each one of these is a shape. And so it went through and it defined each shape and set a color on each shape on the canvas so that I could go through. So this is code over here that outputs this scalable image because it's composed of different shapes. When it finished this one, it came back and said, would you like me to animate smoke coming out of the chimney? Where the mini model generated a static image of a simple house. But this went way overboard in what I was asking for. Honestly, I probably like the mini's response better than the scalable vector here. But it's interesting to show how the different models give different outputs. All right, so let's get into some hands-on exercises. This should give you some more guidance on things that you might use ChatGPT for. All right, I talked about the image generation. ChatGPT is really powerful. You might remember the old days where images generated by ChatGPT or by AI in general, using the early versions of Dolly, you would recognize them because the way it worked is it would generate noise and then it would go through and organize the noise into artifacts that it had learned from other images in the past. What this means is you might end up with 6 fingers or 4 limbs or something like that, these really unnatural images. ChatGPT in the later models, including 5 here, has done an auto regression, where as it goes through, it looks at each pixel and compares it with the surrounding areas. Do you have too many fingers? Does it look unnatural? Is it malformed? And it's really good at catching a lot of that. So in this case, we're going to ask it to generate a photograph quality image. We love BYU, so we're going to start with this prompt, and we're going to give it some very specific things. We want a whiteboard that's kind of shiny and glassy. We want to have the mission of BYU and some of the explanation of what makes it a unique university. We want a student writing all this on a whiteboard, and we want someone else taking the picture. And then we want the student wearing a shirt that celebrates 150 years of BYU. Happy birthday. So let's go ahead and try this out. Chat, again, we're going to switch this to the thinking model or to the mini model, and let's grab our prompt that we're going to go ahead and drop that exact prompt we just talked about, and we're going to set it loose. Okay, so there's what we're asking it to do. That's exactly the prompt we just looked at. We're going to have Mini go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and speed that up a little bit. And you can see it's starting to come in here. Looks like we're starting to get a ceiling grid. That looks like a pretty realistic ceiling grid with some lights. Oh, we see some handwriting. There's the mission of BYU. Boom, there we go. All right, keep in mind, this image was generated from just our prompt. This is ChatGPT diving into its models of what have I seen, what have I learned, what have I been trained on to generate the handwriting with the text I gave it. That's pretty good handwriting. And it's generated these images, BYU 150 celebrating gifts of light. That celebrates our 150th birthday. But look at the quality of this. If I were generating pictures to use for marketing materials, this is pretty good. And I don't have to go get permission from a student. I have to give attribution to ChatGPT. That's always a good thing to do. But you don't have to have signed releases from students. That's kind of cool. Okay, let's dive into some more exercises. Let's jump back to our PowerPoint. Next, we're going to do data summarization. This prompt is so long I couldn't fit it all on the slide here, but it is available in the handout. We're going to give it 10 paragraphs, little bios for each of these students. We're going to tell chat, you can see at the top, you are an expert data extractor. I want you to go through and read each of these 10 bios, and then I want you to build me a table summarizing each of these 10 students. So let me show you the full prompt here. Let's switch back to our chat window. Go ahead and start a new chat. This one we'll go ahead and we'll use the flagship model, and let's copy this prompt. This prompt is a full page on my handout sheet. Paste them. Again, the spacing doesn't really matter because ChatGPT is really good at making those breaks. But it is good to know one thing to be aware of. You might see these 3 hashtags right here. Those are used as delimiters in training the data. So I give it the instructions up here, and then I want it to know this is separate from the data down here. So putting a delimiter in like that says, this is the data, this is the prompt. It tells it it's a logical separation. I could put delimiters between each of these, and then it would know it's a different paragraph. We're going to let it just do its best with this. So we submit that, and we're letting the default model chew on it. Look how quickly it came back. That probably means it's drawing on the mini model to do this for us. It's from the prompt. If you look back through up at the top here, number 1, we have Emily is 22 years old and lives in California. The table it's summarizing here, Emily from California, 22. It's pulling that info and it's summarizing it, putting it in standard format of this table for us. And it goes ahead and it generates this nice table for us that we can summarize things that we don't want to or have too much data to read through. If it can do this for 10 items in that quick a time, think of how long this could do if you had to sift through massive amounts of data. Or if you wanted to do comparisons. I've taken quotes from hardware vendors. I want to buy a server. I have 4 different quotes. Create me a table showing the differences and the similarities between these 4 quotes. Really good at parsing data and looking at responses and creating nice tables that you can then export and pull into Excel or do whatever you want with them. So there's a cool example there. And so here we just show same output. In this particular time, he said, would you like me to generate this as a CSV file so you can import it into Excel or a database directly? That's cool. ChatGPT taking it to the next level and offering more help. Okay, so this, I'm not going to show you how to do it, but I want you to think about it. For this course that I've taught, we had multiple institutions participating. So we had BYU, BYU Idaho, BYU Hawaii, and Ensign College. And each one gave me a list of people they wanted me to invite to this cohort, to this session. And then we had a registration page. So we sent out invitations to 4 different schools. All of the lists I got were in different formats. Some are last name, first name, some are full name, columns in different orders. So no standardization there. But we sent out the invites. And then people got the invitation and they went and registered. In the registration database, all 4 schools were mixed together. So as we got closer to the session happening, closer to this online meeting, I needed to send out reminders to those who hadn't registered. So I took all 4 individual lists, which weren't in the same format, and I dumped those into ChatGPT. And then I put the registration database with just the names and email addresses and said, okay, I want you to go back and I want you to correlate, put all of the invitation lists into the same format and then compare them against the registration database and make me a list of all the people who have not registered with their email address so that I can invite or remind them to register. And it went through and you could see it write the code to go through and normalize the 4 spreadsheets that were the invitations ones. And then it compared them against the registration database. And it came back and said, here's a list of people that didn't register yet. And by the way, here's some people that registered but weren't invited. And here are people who registered with a different email address than they invited. So I hadn't asked for all that, but it came back with that. Work on how would you do this? If you want to go out to our team site, I have some lists out there that you can practice this with some made up info. I can't share the actual info, but how would you do this? What would your prompt look like to do this? Feel free to drop that in the chat below or comment below and let's see. All right. We're talking about different models. I don't use the pro or research model nearly as much as others, but this is purely hypothetical, but it's a question that I've asked general counsel at BYU more than once. I have a lot of history with the network team, and regularly we'd ask ourselves, every free Wi-Fi does this. You connect to the Wi-Fi and then you get that page where you have to click I agree. And we've considered what is the usefulness of that page. It's difficult, it's hard. It gets in the way of people getting on the Wi-Fi. It's frustrating that you can't do anything until you click I agree. So this was a great example. I asked the pro model. I work at BYU on the Wi-Fi team. Our guest Wi-Fi has this landing page. We're considering removing the page, but I need to know, is it legally required? Does it provide more protection to the university if we have it? Are we increasing our liability if we don't? And then I submit it. And this is where the research model it goes very deep. I did never talk to it about the DMCA safe harbor or CALIA. I know about these because when I talk to our attorneys, they always bring these up, but I never prompted it with those. When I asked the research model about the legality of that Wi-Fi page, it instantly starts to pull those up. And then it starts to look through, let me see if there are legal defenses, how it would impact that. Let me look at these different sources. So it starts sifting through a lot of these different things. I've seen this used for querying about fire codes, building codes. It can go really deep into one of these topics, or you might give it a medical condition and it'll come back and it'll give you a lot of specifics on research pertaining to those. So let's look at the final output. It actually output pages, and it thought, I covered it up here, it thought for 15 minutes to give this answer. Gives a short answer. There's no federal law that requires it. However, here's where it's useful and here's why you might want it. You won't be breaking the law, but it helps your defense if you ever have a problem, because you can show that you make the user click I agree. You show that you presented them with the acceptable use policy. This is exactly what our attorneys gave us. This is in no means a replacement for the attorneys, because if we ever had to go to court, I don't want to say I based my whole reasoning on ChatGPT, but this gives me a lot of citations. After this were pages and pages of citations that I could go follow up on specific points and see where it drew this from. The pro model is really good at not hallucinating. We always talk about hallucinating where it gives you a bad answer. Because it's so grounded in citations, it's really good at giving good answers that then I can go back and I can have an intelligent conversation with our attorneys to say, should we do this or shouldn't we? So keep this in mind. This is a great one. It's probably not the one you want to use day in and day out unless you do a lot of research. Okay, so let's look at some of the advanced features of ChatGPT. Here we've got a picture. The models you can see are working together to design an image. That's one of the things it's great at. But we're going to talk about prompt chaining. Sometimes you want something so specific from ChatGPT, but it's too hard to write a single prompt that says, please do this and this and this and this, and it kind of gets confusing. So what we do is we start off with something that's, I'm going to give you one step, and then I'm going to modify that step a little bit, and I'm going to walk you through this until we get to where I want to be. And this is a great thing. I will tell you, sometimes your prompts start to kind of fall apart after a while, but if we're careful and plan ahead, we can use this in a structured way. So what we're going to do, let's say we wanted to put some data out there, but we want to follow good principles for de-identifying the data. But let's say we're new to this and de-identification is tricky. So basically what this means, maybe a professor and I have a bunch of student data, but I know better than to just post my student data that's FERPA protected in ChatGPT. So how would I de-identify that data before I put it in ChatGPT? What's an easy way to do it? Since I can't put it in ChatGPT to de-identify it, help make it easy for me. So that's what we're going to do. On BYU's Gen AI site, there's a great page that talks about how to do data de-identification. So like we saw earlier, ChatGPT is good at reading that and summarizing it for us. So we're going to use the mini model, and we're going to go ahead and have it summarize that page, and then we're going to edit it, and then we're going to turn it into an infographic. So let's try this. Okay, we're going to do a new chat. We're going to go with our ChatGPT with our mini model, and then we're going to grab this prompt, analyze our web page, and summarize it. So analyze our page, create a de-identification checklist, and each item should contain a brief summary, make the language for a non-technical audience. So it's going to read the web page, it's going to summarize it, and it's going to give us a list here. of how do we de-identify that data. Here we go, our simple checklist. Now, this isn't the format we wanted. We want to kind of massage this and work along. Maybe some of this still isn't clear to us. So we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to use what's called the canvas. The canvas is a shared workspace where I can make edits and ChatGPT can make edits on the same document. So instead of it just giving me a response, we can actually work together. So I can paste my, here's a text control. This is really similar to the one I showed you earlier. Or usually, if you just start typing canvas without the brackets around it, start typing canvas, if I could spell it, canvas, that's going to tell it use the canvas. And you can see it popped up here, turned it into a bulleted list. And so now it knows create this on the canvas. You can tell we're on the canvas, and it's done already. At the top, it says copy, edit, download. We're going to go ahead and we're going to edit it. And then just to give an example of that, let's say we're going through and choose a de-identification method. Suppression, hide or mask sensitive data. That's kind of cool, but maybe I don't know what that means. How do I do this quickly and easily? So I've selected one part of this, and now I'm asking ChatGPT a question about what it's written here. Can you give me an example? Now, on the right, we have our canvas. On the left, we have our ongoing chat. You can see that my question that I asked, it posts on the left side here. And then it said, I went through and I updated the suppression item to include a simple practical example for quickly hiding sensitive data. And right here, quickly hide or cover sensitive data so it cannot be seen. For example, replacing names with X's or asterisks. So I can come through and I can ask it questions, or I can even come in and maybe I want to get rid of that example. I can edit it right here in the document. Maybe I don't like that example, so I got rid of it, but I can edit it right here. And then when I'm done, I can just leave the canvas, click out of it, and you can see our final document that we've edited together is right here, which I can then download and do whatever I want with later. So now we're going to keep going with our prompt chaining. We've used the canvas, turned it into a bulleted list. We've shown how we can edit it, how we can ask questions about specific areas of it. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to tell it to create a new document and turn this into an HTML page. So I want to create a simple page that's easier to understand than that BYU Gen AI site. I know you're asking, why don't you just simplify the Gen AI site? That's a great question. But we're going to create an HTML that we can use for an email to send out to our department. That's what we're going to do. So create a new document, turn this into HTML to use as an email awareness, keep the same checklist, simplify the text, apply design elements, keep it simple, write it in HTML, go. We're still on the mini model. It's going to go through and it's going to write us this HTML. If you're not familiar with HTML, that's the language of the basic language of the World Wide Web. A lot of email programs use it as well. And so that is a great format. Most email browsers do that. Here we can see it's got an issue. It's created an HTML version. Our version is blank. That's not helpful. ChatGPT sometimes has issues. Let's go ahead and let's try just reloading this chat. Nope, still blank. So let me just jump straight to the answers here and show you what it outputted for me. And I'm interested to know, how was it different for you? So our first thing, we generated our list. We then created our canvas here. And then when we clicked on edit on the canvas, we could go in and make changes. We could ask it to give us examples. And then we came back and said, give me a de-identification email. And it went through and it has this preview button at the top. But if I click that preview button, it's going to show me this is the formatted. You can see it made blue and it made bold. And so there's our formatted email. If I hit stop, it'll take us back to the previous one. And then we asked it to generate an image that we could drop in a LinkedIn post, and look at this image it put together that gives us those 10 or so bullet points right here. And now we successfully can disguise our data before we put it out into ChatGPT. So this helps us avoid FERPA violations and breaking privacy rules. Okay, let's move on. This is an example. This is real life. I'm building a shed in my backyard. I modeled this shed in CAD, and I just wanted to see how good ChatGPT is at reading images. So this is my shed. I'm going to give you a hint here. If you look at it, these are 4x8 sheets of siding. And so if you count it, 2.5 sheets means this length is going to be 10 feet and this length is going to be 12 feet. I'm not even going to tell it that. I know I'm violating my own rules of being specific and giving it useful information, but I'm going to give it this image and I'm going to say, I'm building a shed in my backyard. Here's my CAD drawing. I want you to tell me how many 4x8 panels of LP Smart Side I need to cover the exterior and tell me what fasteners I need and how many I need to buy. So we're going to see how well it can read my image, go look up how do I attach these, and then tell me what fasteners I need. All right, let's go ahead and try this. We are going to jump over to our chat GPT. We're going to start a new chat, and then we're going to pull up this prompt. So here's our prompt. I'm building a shed in my backyard. And then let me grab this image file of the shed. Capture. Now we're going to paste it into here. So now we've got the image of our shed. It just uploaded. We give it, give it this prompt, and we're going to go ahead and leave it on the default model because I want it to think about it. We're going to let that chew on it for a little bit so you can see the prompt shows up there. Now let's jump back. I have a screenshot from the canned response I got here. We're going to dive right into that one just so we don't have to wait for this to work its way through. But this is for real what it came back with. This was the thinking model. And you can see right here, it interpolated my graphic and it said it looks like the footprint is 12 foot by 8 foot. It was wrong, but it was close. We talked about this. It's 10 foot by 12 foot. But I should have been specific. I could have told it that. But if you look, it gives you its math. It goes through and figures out the perimeter, says 10 full sheets, calculates how many sheets I need to do the top above the 8 foot line. And so then it comes back and says, okay, 10 plus 5 more, you should probably plan 16 or 18. If you count up the sheets I had in my graphic, I was actually figuring I need 17. So in spite of being off with its extra, it still came in right. And then how many fasteners to buy? If you actually look in the full response here, it went and it looked at the manufacturer's website and said, use hot dipped galvanized or equivalent siding or box nails, 0.113-inch shank with a 270-degree head, and it needs to penetrate the framing at least 1.5 inches. So then it comes back and it says, using their spacing, you need 48 nails for the exterior, for the perimeter, and 16 nails for the interior. So you need 64 nails per sheet. So 16 to 18 sheets, you need this many nails, and they commonly come in a 5-pound box, which is 1,200. So if you buy a box, you probably have about enough to do this. That's over the 1,200. But then it also adds, you're also going to need Z flashing at the horizontal joint and proper house wrap, the water resistant barrier. And then it gives some more guidance and instructions here that come straight from LP Building Solutions. I think that's really cool to me. I just gave it the image and asked for it to help me think it through. And so it's like an assistant right there walking me through it. This is so cool. All right, let's talk about some helpful tips. In the middle of a question here, we just finished this last one. Maybe I want to switch from thinking and I want to switch to Mini. I can do this in the middle. Mini can walk in and send thinking on his way if I need to get to where I'm just doing quick answers, or I can go the other direction. Let's go pro and let's talk about codes and research the building code or things like that. So it's okay to change models in the middle. Mention this briefly, but sometimes you get deep in a chat and you've asked it questions and you've gone off on tangents and you kind of lose the whole focus of the chat. With the latest models, this only came out about a month or so ago with the launch of GPT-5. It gives you the option where if you click these 3 dots, and you can go back in the history, click the 3 dots and say branch into new chat. That'll start a new chat at that exact point of conversation. So if you've deviated so far down here, you can go back to where the conversation was on track, branch a new chat, and then start going off of that. And you don't have to go back and redo the whole thing. It goes back to a point where you know you had it good. I use this all the time now. This is so cool. Uh, we aren't going to go into this. This could be a whole nother hour on its own. But ChatGPT, the EDU and the Pro licenses, I don't think the free does this yet, but it allows you to use connectors. So you can go into the settings, you can give it, you tell it you want to connect it to Outlook or Gmail or Outlook Calendar or Box or Teams or all these tools that we use at work. I use these for daily. I can connect it to my account and then I can give it searches. And so I would come down here, I'd click the plus, I'd say use connectors, and then I'd go into sources and I'd say check my Outlook email, check my Outlook calendar. And then I can come up here and I can say, what are the urgent emails from the past week? What are people waiting on me for? And it will go through and it'll read my inbox and then it'll summarize, these are the emails you need to focus on. Or I can do the same things with Box and I can say, search through these files and find me a file that has this. And it's pretty good at finding it, way better than the Box search or the team search if you use those. So play around with these connectors. They're still considered experimental. They're still relatively new, but they can be really cool and help simplify some of that. All right, if you write code, again, this could be more than an hour on its own. If you write code, ChatGPT Codex is included in our ChatGPT EDU or also in the Pro licenses. This is their coding solution, uses the same models on the back end. What you can do is you can connect it to your GitHub repository, and then you can give it tasks. I want you to redo this whole web page and make it do this. And then you click code, and it'll sit there and it'll think on it for a while, and it will go make a pull request in GitHub that then you can go to your device and you can pull that down and see if you like the changes it made, and then you can merge it in GitHub. That sounds really complicated. It's really cool. Or not only does it do it from the web interface here, they have a Node.js terminal CLI model that you can run, or you can do it in your IDE if you use Visual Studio Code or things like that. Those will connect into ChatGPT Codex, and you get a little assistant right there that can help you with designing your application or adjusting lines of code. It'll help you right there in Visual Studio Code. It's really cool. So you can see an example here from my GitHub repo. I had it update a UI for cameras and overlays. I use this a lot if I'm going to try some vibe coding or if I wanted to do code reviews. And it's pretty useful. It's pretty cool. Still a new thing, but it's getting better every day. What tips do you have for us? Drop something in the chat. Drop something in the comments below. What do you want to share with us? What are your favorite tips that you've come up with? Okay, your assignment at this point, I want you to go home. I want you to try some prompts from the prompt library. We have this huge prompt library on BYU's Gen AI site. So you can go to it and say, I'm writing an email, and it will give you examples of prompts that you can use to help write an email or Excel or other things like that. It kind of gives you some ideas on how you can structure prompts. I want you to go try some prompts from the prompt library. I'll give you the link here in just a second. And I want you to promote AI in your area of work. I want you to talk to your coworkers. Show them how you're using it. What are cool things you do with it? Or what are cool things your coworkers do with it? How is it saving them time? Start the conversation on how we responsibly use AI. All right, here's the link for our Gen AI prompt library, open to everyone, genai.byu.edu/prompt library. Go check it out. And there's even an option there. If there are things you want us to include prompts, click the little button and make suggestions. And we've got a great team here that's happy to help structure some of those. So you've got a good resource to look at if you're ever struggling with how to do a prompt. I think that's about it for today. Tell me what you like. Feel free to reach out if there's anything I can do for you. Todd Barrett at BYU. Hope you've enjoyed today. Take care, and we'll see you next time.